Okay, rulers, settle down. Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons. Thank you for your support. Class is in session.
Hey there, rulers! Welcome back after a long week of Force of Will to Office Hours, your favorite ever live Force of Will podcast, coming to you today for the first time live from Lyceon, the new streaming computer that we built. Whoop whoop! So, coming to you live from there. As always, I am DMO73, Jeremy Franklin, and I am joined by the beautiful Mike Rance.
Greetings.
And the ever so wise and wonderful Paul Reisman, who muted himself.
Good old classic.
Good old intro. A plus intro. So before we get started, I just want to say a few things. The usual kind of housekeeping stuff. If you like what we're doing and you want to consider supporting us, click that join button down below. It is the easiest way to get access to all kinds of cool perks, like all of our emotes. Right now, we're trying to push to get 100 members. We're at 82. So you can get the Lumia emote unlocked, as you can see there in the bottom left of your screen. The other thing to note is that if we can get to 100 by the end of this month, I will wear the gloves for every single video of February next month. So if you're not already a member, consider clicking that button. It's a minimum of $2 a month. It's cheaper than a Twitch subscription. It goes to help support the channel, like purchasing new streaming equipment, like this computer was helped paid for by the membership. So it really does help, and we appreciate it. Regardless, we're glad that you're here. If you're looking to spend money not on us, you can go ahead and check out the link down below for Odyssey. They are taking pre-orders for Magic Stone War Zero, $85 a box. So consider checking that out. I know that they still have plenty of stock left. They're out of pre-release kits, though they're working on trying to get more. But they do have plenty of boxes left, so if you haven't already pre-ordered, go support them that way. And then, if you're in the mood to spend some money on tournaments, Svetlana's $1,500 webcam Discord tournament, there is a link right down below to get registered for that. $30 entry gets you, I think we said like $70 worth of promos just for entering, and you get your promos before the tournament starts. Like, Svetlana's already started shipping out promos to people who've participated, and the tournament's not for another 20 days. So, good stuff there. So consider checking that out. And as always, feel free to just chat us up in the chat. We love talking with you guys. That's what Office Hours is all about. We have a topic we're going to talk about, but if you have thoughts or questions or things that you want us to chat about as well, feel free to put that there. We also are going to be doing a giveaway thanks to CCG Prime later in the night. We're going to be doing a playset of Lapis Darkstorm promos. That giveaway is only for players who are in the United States. So sorry for our international friends, but we're still glad you're here. Whew, that was a lot. So I'm going to let you guys talk for a little bit in the span of our topic for tonight, which is tournaments. Tournaments in Force of Will, and what they look like, what they feel like, and how they're so much different than tournaments in other games. So to kind of lean into that, if you guys can share a bit about experience about other games that you've played and what your experience has been with other games tournaments, so then we can contrast it to this game. Either of you can go first.
Let's say I saw this conversation starting. I guess I can start off because before Force of Will, I was actually a Yu-Gi-Oh player. I know that you guys have similar backgrounds, unfortunately. But I remember a lot of the time in my days of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! It was more so when I was in like high school and college that I was playing. Didn't have a lot of money at that point because, oops, high school, college student. Yikes. So I didn't get to go to larger scale tournaments that often. I would normally do my local tournaments. And that was really fun because I just built whatever deck was tickling my fancy at that time, bought like 5 cards on Amazon and just made the rest of it on the spot with some trades. And then just did whatever. And I would get into the tournaments, make top 4 at my locals, and then went to a big scale tournament when Cosmos were around, and had a very unpleasant time at the tournament. And that's kind of when I stopped playing. The thing about Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments versus Force of Will tournaments is that it's a lot less of a personal experience than it is in Force of Will. Especially as focus, especially as somebody who likes to talk a lot and make videos and show up here. That people tend to start to get to know. There's a lot less camaraderie in the Yu-Gi-Oh scene. There's a lot less, people willing to just kind of experiment a little bit, have a good time. And if you do that in Yu-Gi-Oh, you're probably at the bottomest of the bottom table. So, oops, sorry. But yeah, going from that experience into the Force Will tournament experience it was a jarring switch to a more like localized kind of tight-knit community. My first tournament was me going into my final round against Ryan Miles back when we were both in like the Delaware, PA area. So it's definitely like as soon as you start to get to know someone, you know them for a long time in Force Will, as long as they still play the game, which is really nice. And it's nice to just kind
Oh, it is nice. That's a good.
Trapped in his nostalgia.
That's a good way to just like cap it out with that face. It's nice.
It's a good way to.
It's just a good way to phrase there. Paul, what about you?
Sure, I can echo some of that. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay. My wife just started the vacuum.
Oh, I can't hear the vacuum. You're fine.
I will echo a lot of the same sentiments. I remember like prepping for Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments in my early college days and just feeling this sense of like, oh, I have to, like, just the anxiety of like having to know what to do against certain deck types, and just recognizing that my hands bricked so much more easily than in Force of Will, and I think that's sort of naturally mitigated due to the resource management system that we have in the stones, right? But in Yu-Gi-Oh, it was always like high risk, high reward, it felt. And because of that, it wasn't very enjoyable. It really did feel like I was pulling that slot machine a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know about y'all, I don't have fun gambling. I just don't.
I don't really either.
So it was one of those things where, okay, so I have to drive God knows how many miles, like 2-3 hours from Michigan, where I was in Southwest Michigan, to go to a regional in the hopes that I might get top 2. Apparently, top. We're in top 2, Jeremy.
Yeah, we're in top 2. We made it. You and me, buddy. We made it.
Hooray. Your players doxed him. Yeah, and I think that was part of the experience that just wasn't very fun. Like the game mechanics themselves are so like so kind of slap happy that it was like you either win on turn 3 and you move on or you don't. Couple that with what people are saying in the chat, where like they were just people who were like, I don't know, the bravado was really huge in Yu-Gi-Oh at one point. I don't know if it's still that way at all, but it made the whole experience really uncomfortable. And so like when I said to Jeremy, like, hey, I think we should get out because we just went to this Kaijudo regional at a sixth of the people, and it was like 3 times as fun. So
yeah,
it really does come down to the community elements to me. I mean, the game mechanics themselves are like, yeah, that's sucky. But even if a game is sucky, I can still have fun with people. But the people just weren't there for me.
I think
it's just kind of crappy.
The thing about the Force community or Force tournaments instead of Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments is Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments are all about the flex in the sense of like and that's due to their structure. Like EV on Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments is awful. Like what you get for, as far as I know, at least back when you and I were playing, what you got for showing up to a tournament was terrible unless you topped super high. And the problem was then is Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have any form of pass down system. So like you'd have players who were showing up to tournaments for high EV to compete, literally just to prevent other people from having a good time. Like I distinctly remember sitting down across from a player, I think at the last regional I decided to ever go to with Yu-Gi-Oh. I was like, hey man, we're having a good time. It's like, are you hoping to get that invite? He's like, no, I already have 6. Why are you here?
Why are you here?
Why are you here? And he's like, I just want to stop other people from getting invites. Like, Okay, but like that, I mean, like that's from a player's perspective, and I think tournaments in Force of Will aren't that. I was having a
Oh
conversation
no.
the other day of tournaments in Force of Will are, and I think this comes from being a tier 2 game, is players from Force of Will enjoy playing the game, and so they go, yeah, I'll go to an event. Like I enjoy the game, so I'll go to the event, as opposed to like I'm going to go to the event so that I can show that I'm good at this game. It's like the game takes precedence for Force of Will over the tournament, whereas in other card games it's very much the tournament takes precedence over the game. And I think that shows in a lot of different areas, and this is kind of one of the points that I want to talk about is, and we'll push it off until Mike's computer fixes off, but I just kind of want to introduce it now, and then we'll kind of come back to it. Is
Sure.
this idea of Force of Will fields at tournaments are not representative of like the tournament being all important. Like Force of Will fields are representative of the fact that people who are showing up are people who just enjoy the game and feel like coming to a tournament. Um, Another big thing that we can speak to is like the EV of a Force of Will tournament is insane.
Yeah.
Has always been insane. Like we're talking about even this Discord tournament, right? $30 entry, $60 worth of promos. The few GPs we had in 2020, $30 entry or like a $60 entry for Svetlana's events, $110 worth of promos just for participating. Like I had people the first tournament with the DBV Ubers selling their set of 5 DBV Ubers for like 130. Like, hi, I paid $60.
I did that.
I paid $60 to come to a tournament. Before round 1 started, I have doubled my money because I sold my promos to someone else. Like I
The
think
price
even,
support paid for my flight back.
right. I think even Svetlana was like buying the promos for like 80. Like you could sell her your set of promos for like $80 and be like, this is the TO, and she's really like, okay, like you paid me $60, I'll pay you $80. Like I don't know if that's exactly true, but so like don't quote me on it. And Svetlana, feel free to correct me if you're watching this later. But like the EV of tournaments, I think, is representative of that. That it's about tournaments and FAO are about coming to a place to enjoy the game with other people, rather than showing up to show a bunch of other people that you're better than them.
I think the most important moment for me in that is I don't know if you've experienced this either of you, but I sat down in Collinsville. I think it was a couple years ago. It was back when Scheherazade was still not banned, and I sat across the table from John Paul Clintworth. I think it was like round 4, and I was like, okay, we're just gonna see how this goes. I have no idea who you are. I heard you're really good, and I know he watches this, so it was like we're just gonna play, and he's playing Blue Sherry, and I'm just playing regular old Scheherazade, and he proceeds to kick my teeth in, and I'm like, wow, that was really fun, and I've never had that in any other card game, not even Kaijudo,
Yeah,
and I was more interested in what made him choose his card selection more than I was interested in winning that tournament, and I don't think I've ever felt that about any other card game, and I just wanted to get better. It was just
yeah.
one of those games. Yeah.
And in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's always felt like the second the match starts, like I sit down at the table, I know that you're my opponent. The second the match starts, you're my enemy, and then as soon as I've won the match, you're not a person anymore. Like, and the amount of times that I've experienced that from being on the losing side of like very clearly as soon as the game starts, my opponent doesn't care who I am, doesn't see me as anything other than an obstacle. And then once they've succeeded in beating me, I no longer matter to them as a person. And again, I think that comes from that position of like Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments are naturally set up and structured to be that kind of divisive, and also Yu-Gi-Oh as a game is set up to be that kind of divisive. Um, and you see that in like meta reports too of like I think that a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh events is like there's so much the best deck present. Um, and I think this is the point that I want to bring up because I've heard this brought up several times leading up to this Svetlana event of like people being curious as to whether or not they want to play in it because they're like, oh, I don't want to be playing Rezar. I don't want to play against Rezard all day, and I definitely don't want to play Rezard mirrors all day. And I think that's one of the things that I want to bring up here is the natural formatting of Force of Will tournaments and the attitude of. Thank you, Todd. The attitude of the players coming to tournaments and how they see tournaments for Force of Will naturally prevents that from being a problem. And so, Mike, we'll get to your example, but like, not even. I don't think there's a part at any level of competitive play except for maybe Italian exclusive events where the best deck in format ever breaks 40% of the field. Like, even at Worlds, the best deck doesn't break 40% of the field. That's different than Top Cut. The best deck is going to take a good percentage of Top Cut, but like, that's also card games, right? Like, that's card games in general. Like, the decks that's the best is when it's in the hands of good pilots is probably going to work its way to the top, regardless of what it is, right? But Force of Will, like, doesn't create that situation, and that's one of the reasons why I joke about the fact that if Rezard is 90% of the field, I'll eat the gloves, because there's literally never been a tournament in Force of Will history where the best deck has taken 90% of the field. Like, it's not going to happen, let alone for a webcam tournament that's just like a casual show up kind of event.
Unless you, the community, do something to change that.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah.
I want to see Jeremy eat gloves. I don't know how much more I have to say that.
Jeez Louise, I'm setting myself up for this, but like, I'll jump to you, Mike, to kind of share, because you and I were competitive at the same time. I moved to the more heavy content and commentary side, but you kept competing. You and I have played through the most oppressive of metas, which are way more oppressive than Rezard is right now. I'm not saying that Rezard isn't frustrating. I'm not saying that Rezard doesn't have some things about him that are probably really too good. I'm saying that Rezard is not nearly as oppressive as the old stuff.
Yep. Actually, to point out what Todd's saying right now, yeah, Sherry was only 50% at her peak in terms of even top 8, representation. I think the only deck that's really ever seen that like over 50% like consistently tops was probably Baja Blast.
Yeah. Because even like Reflect Refrain, while the ruler represented,
the decks were so different.
The decks were so vastly different
Yep.
that it was like, yes, it's frustrating that Reflect Refrain represents 7 of the top 8 slots, but it's actually 4 different, very clearly different Reflect Refrain variants.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like, it's not like you're seeing the same exact structured lists over and over and over again. Like with probably the most divisive Reflect format was like that Necrolance versus Alice's World combo variant.
It was like Necrolance, Alice's World, Matchstick Girl. Like,
yeah,
that was the triangle.
That was the triangle. Yep, exactly. And it was very, I don't know, it was very weird to see that kind of representation. And obviously, I don't think we've seen anything close to that representation since then. And it could be a really big tribute to the fact that we've seen the Force of Will community get more and more involved in a casual setting and bringing the casual setting to tournaments rather than spiking up a tournament.
Yeah, that's true. Because again, like I said, that attitude of like, people come to Force of Will tournaments because they like playing Force of Will, as opposed to like, I need to win.
Yep.
And I'll just say, like, that has almost nothing to do with the game mechanics, right? That has everything to do with what people are choosing to make the experience.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And every game does not have that. I know the big 3, apparently, other people are saying Pokemon is the same way. I know that Magic is the same way for some folks. Like, that has everything to do with people inside the community choosing to act and behave in certain ways. It has nothing to do with the game mechanics.
Yeah, for sure. Trying to go through some of these questions, some of these like comments here.
Yes, I did play Duel Masters. Jeremy did not.
I did not. Well, I mean, like, I knew of Duel Masters, but I never played it.
Yeah, it's all my cards too.
Salim, hello, welcome. Glad you're here. And I think the thing that I want to give credence in having this conversation is that an invitation to remind yourself to think about when presented with an opportunity to play, even in an annoying meta, even in a frustrating meta, to think about what it is you particularly want out of tournaments and to have a realistic sense of what tournaments in our game look like. Because it's very easy to, I think, psych yourself out of what the experience could be and miss out, when in actuality we have some pretty decent evidence that it's probably not going to be like that. You know?
Yep.
And like this Discord tournament, you know, is Rezard probably going to take 5 of the top 8 slots? Yeah, but like that's card games.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, but also again to speak to some of the most fun I've ever had is like the fact that even if I'm playing the good deck, or even if I'm playing the bad deck, the things that people play make my entire day enjoyable, even though I recognize that if I get to the top tables, I'm probably going to be playing against a lot of the very good deck. And that comes back to the EV, right? Of like, how much does your enjoyment factor into the EV of your tournament? And again, as a reminder, Force of Will tournaments almost always have positive EV before you even play a game. So, like, come on.
I'm trying to think of like when we went to Pennsylvania back in Alice Cluster, we got a playmat, a stamped bow, and a Percival for just
Yeah.
entry.
And, like, at
Yeah,
that point in
pretty much.
time, Percivals were selling for, like, stamped
20?
bows were selling for, like, 15s. And Percivals were also selling for, like, 20s. And it was, like, a $20 entry fee. So it was like, great.
Plus,
And I get to hang out with my friends all weekend. And that was the weekend where I decided to play Dark Alice in a format with mono green Blazer with split. Like, that was a smart idea. But, like, but I still had a great time. And I think, you know, I speak to other tournaments where, like, the invite where I got my second invite to Worlds, I was playing in Canada. And I'm playing Prisia because it was my last chance to qualify for Worlds. And I was like, okay, I'll play Prisia, I guess. But I still was, like, being nice about it, because I recognized what I was doing. And, like, my first round opponent was like, hey, I'm playing this, like, really cool Regalia Charlotte deck. I was like, yeah, that's really cool. I'm not going to lose, but this is really cool. And like, my focus was, again, on watching, kind of like Paul was saying, like, why people picked certain cards, why my opponent was playing with this, and, like, I had a really fun time in that match. And I think, you know, yes, did I win? Yes. Is that what I remember from that game? No. Like, I don't remember winning it. I remember sitting down from an opponent and having a really good time playing against this very neat Regalia list. And I think that brings a lot, like, that soothes me when I think about tournaments. Because, like, in the Force of Will, or in the Yu-Gi-Oh era, when I thought about tournaments, it was, like, entire nervous. Like, my entire existence was nerves. Like Paul was saying, having to beat the best deck, having to either play the best deck or get super hyper-focused to be able to beat it, never letting anybody get inside my head, like, trying to get into that attitude of, it's not a person, it's an opponent. I didn't like who I was in that.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
Force of Will doesn't let me get back to that. And so I just wanted to have the three of us kind of share our perspective on that, as, like, coming from people who have been playing this game for a while at both the casual and the competitive level, who participated in tournaments throughout FAU's history. Like, let our experience be a lesson to you and maybe assuage some fears that you might be having, especially newer players, because we've been seeing this kind of thread pop up from newer players in a lot of different places.
Yeah, Force of Will gives you permission to enjoy the time. Like, it's time well spent.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like my 9 hours sitting in a hot and sweaty room with a bunch of guys, 300 some dudes, in some hotel. I didn't think that that was very useful when I played Yu-Gi-Oh! It just didn't work.
No.
And then I had to drive home because I was the only one who could drive. And it was
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah, he drove home. My last event that I participated in with Yu-Gi-Oh! Before Paul and I went to Kaijudo, it was like 350-man tournament in a building that very clearly needed to only hold like 120. I did not do well. I didn't feel good about the way I had behaved that day. And then I had to drive home with my wife in a snowstorm. And I was just like, oh, this whole weekend sucked. Like, it was not fun. And I think even in Force of Will, the tournaments that I didn't succeed in, I still was like, yeah, that was great. It was a great weekend. What I'm saying is, if you're a new player, coming from a new game, or coming from a different game, or new to Force of Will in general, like, sign up for this webcam event, and start to get a taste of what that is like, because if you're not already hooked on Force of Will, which if you're watching the content you probably are, but if you're not and you play in this event, you certainly are going to be afterwards. Regardless of if you choose to play Rezard or not, or if you play against Rezard in the tournament or not, like you're gonna be in.
Do we have it, so is registration still open for the OLS?
Registration
Or-
for the OLS is
not OLS.
still
It's
the OLS
it's
is
different.
constantly happening. The Discord
Mhm.
tournament, Discord webcam tournament, you can use the link in the description. Is registration is literally open until February the 5th. So like, sign up.
Once I move, maybe I'll be doing that too.
Heck yeah.
I thought it was this weekend, which is why I was like, oh geez, I can't do that.
No, you certainly can. You've got some time.
It's true.
Got a couple of weeks. We're gonna be casting it here on the channel too. Paul and I are gonna be in the same room casting it. We're very excited.
Ooh.
So to shift now from the emotional response of why you should play in tournaments, we're going to talk about this idea of reading the room and kind of understanding, okay, now I've got it in my head that not the whole field's going to be the best deck. What do I need to do to prepare myself? There's 3 fundamental rules for Force of Will tournaments. One we've already covered is that the best deck is absolutely not going to take more than 30% of the meta. Like, you need to know and respect it, but don't solely focus on it. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is the second most represented deck will be a red deck.
This applies to U.S. players mostly.
Mostly in the U.S. The second most represented deck will be a red deck, so plan accordingly. And 3, prepare for a lot of 1-ofs. Like, prepare for a lot of 1-ofs. And so, like, the idea of preparing for a lot of 1-ofs means, like, get practiced with your deck and get familiar with what all of the available rulers do. Like, in terms of 1 and 2, those are your, like, sideboard choices. Like, those are, like, what should drive your sideboarding decisions of, like, whatever the best deck is, Cough, Rezard. And whatever the red deck is, Cough, Lilius. Like, those are what probably need to take up a majority of your focus for your sideboard stuff. Celeste, in this meta, Celeste is probably something to at least be cognizant of, but, like, probably not as much as the other 2. But, like, in the idea of prepare for a lot of 1-ofs or 2-ofs, the best way to be able to prepare for that is to, unless you are one of the 1-ofs, is to just read up on every ruler and what they do so that you aren't, like, walking into a matchup blind. Because I don't think that you should walk in being like, oh man, I might see a single person playing Valentina. I gotta sideboard something for it. No, you're probably gonna be okay as long as you just understand what Valentina's trying to do. You know, Yes, Victoria, of course, have all your cards. Someone send
Sleeved.
Victoria some Kiki emotes.
I've heard rulers are a really, really integral part of this game.
Yeah,
Ish.
I've heard that as well. It's a strange choice. But when you're taking into consideration testing and when you're thinking about reading the room, like those are the things that I think are going to drive your decision making. And so like that's it. Like that's really like the core decision making, and so then you just like build your testing around that. Because way to blow up the Valentina's players' game plan. If you were choosing to play Valentina at the GP, you were already in this group of people that we talked about earlier who just really like playing Force of Will and felt like showing up for a tournament.
I haven't chosen my ruler for this tournament yet.
Well, Mike's clearly choosing Valentina.
Valentina. It's Kiki. That's his ruler.
Yeah, just
Just shows up. Kiki. Kiki. Doesn't flip.
yeah. I mean, like, speaking to, like, we'll use that example, that, like, threshold of, like, what to look for. And Mike will take that same kind of applying those rules to the Minneapolis GP. Like, talk about how you made the decision to play what you did and kind of what your thoughts were about the field when you were showing up for a person. Like, go ahead and share with us a little bit that, just as a practical example of what we're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. So with Minneapolis, I was going back and forth on so many different decks. At this point, we had already decided that Alter was going to be the route because, it's Alter format. Athenia was still around, Sigurd was around, all the disgusting stuff was around. So the decision was coming down to whether we should play Hanzo, Brunhild, or Lich. And the decision came at the very end when I realized that Lich had the only card that got around Don't Cheat, which was Undeath, because most other decks had to deal with Power of Immortality. So I assigned 3 Don't Cheats to make sure that I can roast every non-Lich player. And then my main concern in games 2 becomes, how do I deal with Lich players? So a lot of the time was just kind of spent, obviously, reading the room for that. As you mentioned, pay attention for red decks. Thankfully, the way that I was building the deck, we had Rhea. I was one of the other... for some reason, there were a lot of players for these Alter decks that were playing less Rhea and more Dark Elves. I ended up going the alternate route because the drain on Rhea kind of mattering a little bit in the red matchup.
Because in that format, Gil Lapis could be like, oh, hey, 32 damage on 2. And you're like, oh, shit.
No, actually, the Gil Lapis combo actually dealt exactly 4K.
Yeah.
Which is the
red
thing.
deck.
Yeah, it uses Sylvia's Burning Flame. It's fine. But the biggest thing was that, you focus on that. You have a little extra Rhea to make sure that you have that wiggle room on your life total. And the last thing, and the thing to search for those one-ofs, was to just kind of, play to your outs to the most part. A lot of what I did was just kind of, people were like, oh, if you play against, a deck that isn't the Ultra Mirror, you're just going to go off on turn 3. And it's like, no, you got to do the dance, bud. There's a very specific way that you have to kind of maneuver around similar decks. Like the Perfect Loki deck that got into the top 4. That was crazy. Like, because I didn't expect to see Perfect Loki anywhere in the top cuts.
Right.
So I'm sitting there like, how do I play against Perfect Loki? How do I play against this infinite value generator with no real main deck way to stop it? And you slowly but surely realize, well, all I have to do is just kind of figure out what's in their grave, have the counterplay to stop that, hold your Kaguya mana. Holding the will open for Kaguya, even if you didn't have one in your hand, was the biggest clutch moment against any rogue deck that I could have faced. It was very, very strange, and it was very, very... It gave a lot of interesting counterplay. Like, there's a lot of the time where, if you're playing, say... Like, people talk about that deck like it was a Yu-Gi-Oh! Combo deck, and it was. And it's just literally just like a regurgitated combo over and over again until you win the game. But at the same time, the dance you do up to that point was where the meat and potatoes came from. Like, what's your turn one play? Do you immediately cast the Calico Cat to make your opponent have a less good opening play? Do you hold the mana open and wait for the ability to put out a Dark Alice or a Rhea? Do you just hold up whatever? Do you Chant of Tranquility? That card was insane, but like the time that you play it was so weird because you had an 11 Divinity Rune deck. So that was another part of the decision tree that you had to deal with. And it's just like, I don't know, you read the room you read what you think the meta is going to be, but you put just enough into your deck to make it just unpredictable enough that your opponents don't know what you're doing. And that's the beauty of the Force of Will tournament. The one-ofs matter.
Yeah.
Going back to my first ever tournament, I was playing against Ryan Miles, who was also playing the Necrolance deck at that point. We were both in like final round. We're like, all right, cool. Go to game one. What's going on here? Playing stuff out. At this point, I'm playing 3 Flame Sprites in my deck, and he's playing 3 cards other than those Flame Sprites, and that's the only difference between our entire decks. Like, the decks were like line up perfectly with each other. So I end up, putting out a red card, and he's like, all right, cool. Sounds good. I'm going to play my one-of main boarded Robo the Fire Rat. I'm like,
Yep.
what? So then I'm frantically searching for my Sinbad to get rid of it because I did not expect it. I'm mulliganed my first Sinbad.
Yeah. I think there's this idea of like not only the one-ofs in the main deck, but also the one-ofs in the rulers. Of like, I'll speak to that same kind of Reflect Refrain era. Like the Reflect Refrain list that got me my invite was also playing Necrolance, but I looked at like what were the things that Necrolance like struggled with, and it was like people who could match him tempo. Like any deck, regardless of the ruler, that could match Necrolance tempo wise, like that wasn't afraid of Lance, was a deck that existed. But if I paired up against as like wasn't like not super popular, but was popular enough that it was probably going to see some play, if I got paired up against it, like might be really bad for me to be able to see, like not probably going to happen because such a deck has so many other bad matchups. But if I get paired up against it, I'm going to have a bad time, which is why I played in my list, I played Flame Sprites and Demon Flames. Like, cool, if I'm concerned about Lance not being able to pop stuff in those matchups, I'll play something that doesn't care about how much damage that I'm going to need to put on. I'm going to put on this other extra kind of package to go through it. And that did play out in some of my games. Like I played against a blue Blazer list. Like a mono blue Blazer list that's like all tempo, like going to kick Necrolance's teeth in, and I was just like, well, I'm really glad I have these Flame Sprites that I'm going to keep untapping every turn instead of pushing extra damage with Necrolance. Like, because I was making those decisions, it got me wins. That also was, to be fair, the scummiest second game that I've ever had, where I literally was on the play and hit 4 orbs, flip, reflect, pass, without calling a stone on turn 1 and made the Blazer feel sad.
That's scummy.
Yeah, it was. I felt bad about it. But like, but if I had been thinking about that, if I hadn't been thinking about, what are those decks that I wouldn't have even considered to be present if I was playing something like Yu-Gi-Oh, but knowing my understanding of how Force of Will players approach tournaments, I need to be more cautious of, I might not have gotten my invite. And I think that speaks to the beauty of Force of Will, right? Because it's almost kind of a more fun mindset going into a tournament of like, man, I really hope I kind of see some fun stuff, right? As opposed to, okay, get ready for mirrors all day, boys. Like that's grindy and annoying. And so it like almost kind of makes even preparing for a tournament more fun.
Oh yeah.
Paul, you've been quiet for a while. I'm gonna quiet you, Mike. I'm gonna say.
Well, I mean, just something from the opposite end of that, right? I remember the story you told me about when you went to Worlds, where Fox and Prissy were the meta, and you played New Frontiers until you got to Rhea Cluster, right? And I think it was maybe the Italian players. I don't know. Some group from Europe all played Blue Fox, and all the American players just played regular Fox,
Yeah,
and
that
they
was
didn't
Italians.
expect it. It
Yeah,
was
that's
Italians. Yeah,
Italians.
they all played Blue Fox with water transformation magic and yes, and whoop your butts. Um, and people didn't expect that, and I found myself in the same situation when I was playing in Collinsville, where I got water transformation magic one time, and I was like, "Oh, I'm never gonna win." I have no out to that, and I never would have thought of like, always just splash blue, so that way I can get around the dolls and stuff like that. I can get around like the bigger stuff that my stuff wouldn't be able to get around. And if I just would have thought about the room a little bit more, maybe I would have noticed that.
Right.
Yeah.
Mirror breaking is important.
Mirror breaking is important. That's why I say creative thinking is also one of the most important force of will skills. You have to be
Yes.
able to like visualize that room, recognize the stuff that's in the meta.
It's second only to reading comprehension.
Yeah,
It's true. It's true.
Reading OP.
reading is very good for you. That's why I have so many books just like around me.
Yeah. So like the big thing for this is there's almost a benefit now. Like people have been playing because of COVID. People have been playing on Untap or over webcam and not pushing themselves to be hyper competitively minded.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things it can be jarring, understandably so, to think about trying to go from that mindset to go into a tournament mindset. But in terms of also reading the room, your player base that you're going to be playing against for this webcam tournament has mostly all just been playing on webcams and Discord and Untap because of COVID. Like this is an event where the room vibe is probably gonna be pretty casual, right? Like I think of a good example of this, and like some people say like, oh well, there's cash involved. The Force of Will Festival had 61 people show up. Some people who literally decided to fly from California. Like, we had California, Arizona, Texas, Washington, Canada, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, New York, Maine, Florida. Like, we had people from everywhere show up to a cash event. Pretty sure we had like 19 different rulers represented. Like, cash on the line, guaranteed grand to top 8. People showed up with like I think Travis Tran, coming from California, brought Arthur. No. Yeah, no, I think he brought Arthur to that tournament. Like, we should play a game live. We might play a game live here in just a second. Here we go. On 3, ready? On rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll count it off.
Do you guys do says shoot or just shoot?
Like rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Rock's the meta right now.
Okay, ready? Here we go. Here we go. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Okay, well, Paul
Rock
wins.
is the meta.
Rock is the meta.
Rock is meta.
Rock is meta. There it is.
40 chess, boys. 40 chess.
We're over here thinking in 2021. Paul's over there in 3031.
Paul read the room.
Oh, he did read the room. He supplied us with infinite knowledge, and we did not take his advice.
He did.
I even said the game plan, and they didn't believe it.
No. So, I think this is the thing to kind of be the lesson here is like reading the room can also be looking at the state of how people are playing or what is being enjoyed, like how the game is being played can be a big part of it. Like, again, the Force of Will Festival is a good example of like the same kind of vibe that this Discord tournament is going. Like, we designed the Forza Will Festival to be, hi, you paid $30 to be here. Your EV is like $90 just for showing up. Because we want to push that, it was about like, we gave everybody like at least 5 promos and a playmat and a time spinning witch just for showing up to and a will coin just for showing
Can we
up.
also have raffles?
And we gave away raffles. All in all, in terms of the pricing that we gave away, and including the top 8 pricing, we were at $10,000, $10,000 or $11,000 worth of pricing for a $30 tournament. Like, so reading the vibe of like how Forza Will players make tournaments happen, how people enjoy tournaments, like, this is one of those similar kinds of examples. And I think that trying to adjust your headspace about the definition of what a tournament is for Forza Will is going to pay off. Like, I would consider Forza Will tournaments to just be like parties where we all just play Forza Will all day. Like, they're more like parties where someone gets to go to Japan afterwards. Like, that's a good, mindset to have. And so, for the newer players, we want you to know that, because it can be very easy to not know that and get kind of trapped in an idea of like maybe being frustrated or nervous or worried, and like I said, psych yourself out.
If it feels like a risk because you've been burned by the big 3, this is definitely worth the risk.
Let this podcast be the Band-Aid to heal you.
BYOD, bring your own deck.
Bring your own Band-Aid.
And $30.
Yeah.
Don't forget the $30. That's important.
$30 is very important.
Yeah, don't forget that. Collectible Farm. Hello. Glad to have you. Sharingans and Ninja. In terms of playing a game live, we will be doing that this Wednesday, as kind of a wrap up to this wave of rulers for FAO Wednesday. We're going to be doing at least 3, if not 4 hours of literally nothing but member games, where we're just going to play against members. If you are not a member, there's that join button right down below. It's like a Twitch subscription. Gets you access to all kinds of perks. We never paywall content. You will always be able to watch everything for free. But this is a way to get access to other little perks, like being able to jam games against me live on FAO Wednesdays. And then also, regardless of if you join as a member or not, you can click that Discord link in the description below to get plugged into our community. That's a really easy way to like find people to play games with or talk about spoilers or everything else. We were supposed to be doing spoilers tonight, but delays. I imagine COVID delays are probably hiccuping stuff up, because things in Japan have not been great as of late with that. If there's spoilers on Wednesday, we will certainly be talking about them live.
Yes.
So,
in worst case scenario, we'll talk about them next Monday when I'm in my new room.
Yeah, that is kind of worst case scenario. Speaking of rulers, where are my 6-stage spoilers? Yeah, I just said.
I heard Gruus Blessed is one of them.
I have heard that Gruus Blessed is one of them. According to the Germans, it's the 6 sages, and the Cthulhu ruler is called Wolfgang. His name is Wolfgang. His name is Wolfgang, which is a character in Cthulhu lore. So that's a nice little connection there. I don't know anything about Cthulhu lore. I don't dig into the eldritch horror stuff. But apparently there's a connection there. Interesting question. Does the TO accept store credit for entry? That would be a question for Svetlana. You can message her on Facebook, or I'm sure call the store. Like I said, the link to the website to sign up for everything is down below.
Carrier Pigeon.
Carrier Pigeon, maybe not so much. When's Forza Will Festival #2? We have plans. We're going to be working pretty heavily with CCG Prime for FAO Festival 2 to make it, if not the same level of pricing, more than. as well as with Odyssey Games about hosting it, a location to host it. And then we'll obviously reach out to Vite Ramen as well, and probably some of the similar sponsors who sponsored prizing last time, because I know that a lot of the prizing we got last time was so awesomely donated, so we'll be pushing for that as well. But speaking of pricing and speaking of CCG Prime, let's do a giveaway, boys.
Oh yeah, that's fun.
So we're gonna give away a set of again, this is for United States participants only. So if you're not
Sorry,
in
Matt,
the sorry, Matt. If you're not in the United States, please don't enter. I know it sucks to say, but it's not my rules. The rules of the giveaway. We're gonna be giving away a playset of Lapis Darkstorm promos, which are like $15 a piece. So speaking of Eevee, you clicked on this video expecting to hang out and talk about Force of Will for an hour, which cost you $0. And
How much?
And you could get like $60 worth of value. I think Darkstorms are like 15s. I think.
I would be crying right now. Hang on.
10-15s probably.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Go on ye old internet.
ye old internet. So here's how we're gonna do it. I'm going to give you all until 10 o'clock my time to put in the chat
Focus.
if there was a Grim or Alice Cluster card that you would want to see reprinted in Magic Stone War, what card would that be? Or if you're a new player, you can just say you're a new player and you don't know reprints, and that's fine. That will also get you an entry. But for the OG people, if there was a card from Grim or Alice Cluster that you would want to see reprinted into this next set, put that in the chat, and that will get you your entry. Or just tell me that you're new, and that'll get you your entry as well. You have until 10 o'clock on my clock, which is about 5 minutes. So until
If
then,
you're a new player, just say Wicked Witch of the West.
don't do that.
Reprint
Blast.
Wicked Witch of the West.
I know what mine is. I would love to see.
I have one in mind too.
Yeah, I'll say mine when we're done. I'll say what mine is when we're done. I have a very
Update on
specific
Lapis
card.
Darkstorm pricing. There are currently three sellers on TCG Player. The lightly played foil is $19.50.
Cool. So $80 EV for a $0 video that you clicked on. Great.
Freaking enter! There's no reason not to,
Yeah.
unless you don't live in the United States. Sorry.
Oh, I know what I want.
Good weekend.
That was a good weekend.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Oh, we did. I'll show this. Oh, I gotta. Hold on. I gotta keep writing people's names.
See if people are coming up with some good stuff.
Want a time spinning witch reprint? Oof, Sir Doom Sandwich. What a choice.
What a name.
Oh. There's some good stuff in here.
Yeah. I do miss True Stones.
I hope we get them.
That'd be nice.
We get them next set. They're so cool.
Just blessed to be such a good
Speaking
stone.
of the weekend, this weekend I bought this.
Oh baby. Oh baby, what?
That's
Whoa.
the
It's the
cube.
cube. The cube has its own home now. So that is an entire cube plus 100 of each stone, or plus 20 of each basic magic stone. It's all sleeved and ready to be cubed anytime.
Kiki in the chat if you watched the cube and enjoyed.
Yeah, I've enjoyed playing it. Like, that's been awesome.
Yes. Hold on.
2 minutes left to get your entries in, people.
And put your kikis in chat.
I've enjoyed the cube a lot. Especially when I got that transformation magic. Ooh.
Yeah,
that was a good
Paul's
snap.
favorite card. I also
Very
do want to
good.
show that these arrived today.
Oh.
Textured
Yeah, the textured stones.
Texture basic magic stones. So this
Oh,
has been a
Yo-Yo
good.
Wolf, when are we getting? Hang on, Yo-Yo Wolf, when are we getting the sphere? You have to wait until we're done with the Force Will pentagonal dodecahedron. Once we're done with that, then we'll move on to the sphere.
Yes.
We have to
that's-
advance in
that's-
3D technology.
Yeah.
Then we'll get there. Spherical.
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 And just as a reminder again, I'm seeing a lot of people here in the chat who are not members, which is, again, totally fine. So if you also, in the interest of trying to understand people more, like we want to make membership worth the EV, right? The EV of it. So if you aren't a member currently in chat, and there's something that you could think of that, like, if we provided might convince you to join, let us know that too, and we can see what we can do.
$2 a month, baby. I'm on the stream and I pay $2 a month for this.
True.
This is quality content.
So is Paul.
My face is
I
on it.
pay $2 a month.
My face is in this. It's great. I can just look into this mirror and I see my face, but I pay $2 anyway. Jeremy's just that worth it.
New gimmick: the cards are literally circles.
Oh my
Let's
God.
not have spherical cards, please.
Can we get hexagonal cards and play Settlers of Catan with Force of Will cards? Thanks.
Please no.
If you want collectible things in spheres, there's already something for that. It's called Pokemon. Celebrating 25 years. You might have heard of it. You might be older than
And
it.
closed. The giveaway is closed. And the winner of 4 Lapis Darkstorm promos is Sir Doom Sandwich.
Sandwich.
Healthy slice of doom.
Congratulations, Sir Doom Sandwich. You are the winner of 4 Lapis Darkstorm promos. I do have here written who is the second place person, so if for some reason, Sir Doom, you are not from the United States, I still have someone else I can give these to. But you are our focus. So, a free Diet Coke the 2nd of every month. I don't know if I can just go buy a Diet Coke.
Sponsored this channel.
He
Sponsored this
didn't say how big the Diet Coke had to be. It could be cans.
So Sir Doom Sandwich, go ahead and just send your email this rulerschoolcontent@gmail.com with your name and address, and we will get that giveaway prize to you. By the way, huge thanks to ccgprime.com for supporting that. Go check them out. ccgprime.com has plenty of singles and sealed product from like the origins of Force of Will all the way up through now. Is Doom not from US only? I don't know. That's what my request was. So
Yeah,
Doom,
spell sir like an Englishman.
sir, are you from the United States? I hate to be the bearer of potential bad news. I believe you are from the United States, but just wanting to clarify. But yeah, ccgprime.com while we're waiting on that confirmation. It is a wonderful place to be able to go get singles and sealed product from all the way back in Force of Will. They even have things like Curse the Frozen Casket, and they also provided us with a pre-release kit to open a couple weeks ago. They're providing us with another BFA pre-release kit to open, I think, next week on Wednesday. Perfect. Thank you, Sir Doom Sandwich. Yeah, just email that email address, and we will get those prizes mailed out to you.
Damn,
With
I
that-
was in the US. Crazy.
Yeah, crazy. With that out of the way, we hope you guys enjoyed tonight. We hope you guys enjoyed this conversation. If you're a new player, we hope that maybe if you had some of these spheres that we assuaded them, or just reinforced this idea that you've made a good choice to play this game. If you're a player who is been here for a while and you haven't signed up for the Discord tournament, why? And we hope to see people who are new sign up for the tournament. We really hope that happens. So we'd love to have you be part of it and start to get closer to our community. But as a reminder, this Wednesday we will be doing a nice little Foul Wednesday community stream. Very much looking forward to that. And so until next time, this has been myself, DMO73, and I have been joined by the beautiful Mike Rance.
Goodbye,
And the wise and splendiferous Paul Reisman.
Sir Doom Sandwich. Spell sir better.
Oh, it's so
until
good.
next time, class dismissed. Have a good night, everybody.